everybody. My name is Jeff Fuchs, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I'm a lean practitioner for about 3 decades now, much of that time with a lean consortium in the state of Maryland. I've been practicing kata since about 2012, and KataCon has been wonderful every year that I've been able to attend. I'm a member of Continuous Coaching Commitment. We're one of the sponsors of KataCon. Please stop by and come see us. One of the things that I personally love about KataCon is the diversity. As I network with folks coming to hear about all of the different industries that people come from, it's very interesting. And also, I think some of their expertise and the experience that people come from. Our next speaker, Tracy Defoe, has a background in adult education and learning at work, and also in language. And I think that's very interesting, the way that language kind of shapes the way that you think, and that overlap between kata and some of these other fields has led to some interesting new discoveries. So I've enjoyed learning from Tracy in previous KataCons. I know you will today as well. People, everyone please help me welcome Tracy Defoe.
The clicker thing. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm going to stand really close to the edge because even from the front, I've been feeling like the speakers are far away. Oh, that's just my name. And also, it's small f. Okay, so Kata in Secret, I'm here to talk about what Hal Frowick and I had learned from people who kata very quietly. And I'm going to put that down. But first, actually, I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement. I don't know if you do that in America, but we do that in Canada. So I would like to acknowledge that we are speaking today, and I'm speaking today, on the traditional territories of the American indigenous people, the Tonka, the Sana, the Comanche peoples. And isn't it amazing to think that people have gathered on this exact spot to learn and share and laugh and be together since time immemorial? I think that's awesome. So add that to your mindfulness thought today. Oh, thank you, Canadians. Thank you. So just by way of introduction then, I am an adult educator. I'm also a Kata geek. This is my 6th KataCon. So for me, it is a bit of a family reunion, always fun. And last time I talked at KataCon, I went over time. So I brought notes today, and I never talk with notes. Maybe I'll put them down and see how we do. Okay. So, a picture on the screen is an area of North America called Cascadia. It's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, as seen from space. So, and that's to remind me that I wanted to introduce you not just to me, but to Hal Frowick. Hal, will you wave? Hal and I are in this little Kata in Secret research project together because as, and Hal, I should say, Hal is the real deal. If you're looking for somebody who really knows about this stuff, you know, Hal went to Japan as a young man and got beaten up by senseis, and he worked in industry and has saved a business or two from the brink, and also, of course, works with the Washington MEP. So we are in this together, but I'm on stage today because he's chatty, but I like the spotlight. So there you go. As Kata enthusiasts, Hal and I got together a few years ago and said, you know, why isn't everyone pounding on our doors to learn continuous improvement and learning? Like, how is that not happening? How is not every small business in Cascadia onto this? Why aren't the schools? I mean, we do Kata in the classroom. Why isn't everyone pounding on our doors? And there are 16 million people who live in this area of North America. So we know that we have a long way to go to meet our challenge of spreading knowledge and practice of scientific thinking and ways to improve together to all of those people. As we set out towards that challenge, I ran into somebody who I had introduced to the Kata a few years before. So since that KataCon 1, for 6 years, I've been traveling around doing introduction to Kata training. There are probably some people in this room, if you're from Canada, I may be the person who first taught you how to do the Kata. So I traveled to different regions, and I went back, as I do every 6 months or a year, and a woman came. I always invite, hey, if you've learned before and you want to come back and help, be a coach or practice in the afternoon when we do our simulation, you're welcome to come. That's what happened a few years ago. And a woman at the break told me that although she had been caddying at that time for 2 years, the whole first year she did it in secret from her boss. I thought, holy cow, I'd love to hear that story. So here's the story. I have a slide. This is not her, okay? I am protecting the name of her boss, and the other people. But here's the slide for me to remember to tell you this Kata in Secret story. I'm going to call her Susan. This is not her name. But if you're going to the AME in Toronto, she's going to tell the story standing up, and you will learn her name, so that's cool. Susan is a production manager in a very high-tech, really big firm that sells parts that go into machines that could kill people. Okay, so it's a very serious place. And they have been doing continuous improvement there for a long, long time. So the people in that company, I'm going to read this part because I always get it wrong. They had been working on reducing the turnaround time for subcontract processing purchase orders for 5.5 years. Right? They had Kaizen events, they had action plans, they had those Kaizen newspapers, and they had been unable to bring that turnaround time, which I'm just going to call TAT if that's okay with you, below the 36-day average that it was. You just sit with that number for a minute. 36 days for the purchase of subcontracted parts. And Susan told me when she told me about her story that when she sat in her Kata introduction course and did the simulation, that a light went on for her. And she said, the light was so bright, it shone into space. She said, I knew I could take this back and tackle the unmovable problem, excuse me, of turnaround time. Well, so this is what happened to her. She went back to work and she announced to her boss that that's what she wanted to do. I learned this new thing. I'm going to take a couple people. We're going to learn it. And you know what happened, of course. Her boss said no, right? Her boss said, I have never heard of this. Our lean program is fine. We know what we're doing. You can't just run off and try new things. Go ahead and hold another Kaizen event. Go for that, right? Go ahead and send people. This company, I mean, I don't know how many of you do belt training. They had 500 yellow belts, 50 green belts. I don't know how many master black belts they had, but they had lots. He said, don't do this. Hold more events. Start more lists. But you already know, because I told you, she did. She did actually what Drew just told her to do. She did what she thought was right? She thought, the people I have, the problem I have, maybe I can use my sphere of influence and do the right thing. And she started a storyboard in secret with just 2 people. So this is kind of about the power of a small movement, too. She asked the vice president for purchasing, if we could get that turnaround time, what would it be? What would be the ideal time? And he said, of course, 1 day, because he's read the Toyota way, right? 1 day. And she took 1 day as her challenge, and they started a board, 2 guys in a closed room, and her. All of them were absolutely new, so they coached each other, and they followed the Starter Kata exactly. They followed the book exactly. And after 30 days, they had it down to 20. So a month later, 20 days. Right. And then 3 months later, 10 days. 6 months later, 5 days, right? Month after that, 3 days. And then they held a steady 1 to 3 days. 2 years later, it was 1 day. Today, 4 years later, I checked before I came, still 1 day. So that's an incredible improvement story no matter what. But imagine you have to do it in secret, right? Well, Susan did not have to do it in secret forever because she was having success. Somebody asked her eventually, how's that Kaizen going? You guys are doing great. And so she told the executives that she had, in fact, implemented and learned the improvement kata and the coaching kata. She taught it to a couple other people on the floor. And they actually yelled at her. So I don't know, Drew was just talking about people who yell. They yelled at her in the executive meeting, and one of them said, I told you not to do that. And then one of the other people said, you can't argue with these results. We should all learn that. So in their company now, that is how they have managed to do that really hard thing of integrating or overlaying or underlaying, I don't know what the word is there, the improvement kata and the coaching kata for the way they do continuous improvement. I think that's all I need to say about that. So after that story that Susan told me, I started to think about other people I knew who had to hide in their organization that they were learning the improvement kata, that they wanted to go down that road as their kind of, often because of a big aha moment. And I have personally coached 2 or 3 people for free on the down low because they wanted to learn it and not fail in front of their boss, or because somebody had told them that isn't how we do it here. And so last year at KataCon6, 2019, I put this slide up during the Kata Geek meetup. And I asked people to talk to me or get in touch with Hal and tell us their story of how they had Kata'd in secret. And we also did like a survey monkey. And I heard stories, lots of stories. And I'll tell you what happened. I mean, I'm going to show you what happened. But what happened was, one of us was really, really surprised by these stories. And it was me. Hal, who has worked in giant corporations and been oppressed, was not surprised, right? He said, of course people's bosses don't want them to know stuff they don't know. And I'm like, whoa, I've worked since I was 24. The only employers I've ever had have been universities. I know, it's terrible. But I actually do a lot of consulting in business. And like you said, my actual work is often with blue-collar workers. I'm a bit of an expert in literacy and numeracy and how people learn at work, which got me interested in how come we need to be engaged, which got me interested in continuous improvement, and that's how I got into this. But I was shocked, okay? I was totally shocked by 2 parts of it. One of them was just the oppression of it all. Like going to work to a place where people are telling you not to learn something. I mean, I was just like, oh my goodness, that's terrible. But also, if you are kataing in secret, you don't get to come to KataCon, right? You don't get a coach. You don't get to talk to Julie maybe on the phone. You don't get a good coach. You don't get to go to a Kata practitioner day maybe. So you are really isolated and alone. And this is a team sport, right? You need to find your people to do this sport. So, I mean, I was shocked. So here's what we learned from our small sample. We talked to about 60 people after that slide went up. Some of them DM'd us on LinkedIn. Oh, we also discovered you can't ask people in public to say if they're lying to their boss. So I am not going to ask you to raise your hand if you currently or ever had to secretly do kata or anything else that your boss told you not to do. But here's what we did learn from about 60 people. We learned that many, many people never use the word kata, even if they are, even in the beginning, even if they are using the starter kata. And so that's because the words are scary, right? We learned that kata in secret is way more common than I expected. It was not more common than Hal expected, okay? So that's why we're fun, because we have different notions. A whole bunch of people described a lot of resistance, like a lot of resistance, either to learning something new or to the words or to the card or to the board, like resistance. But we also learned something that I think is really hopeful, which is that learning finds a way, right? Like those little dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, if you want to learn something and you've got that bright light, learning will find a way. You will find some way to learn it. So those are a few of the things I learned. This is not our real storyboard, okay? But I thought it would be a good way to communicate to you some of the things that we did, which is down the middle, and then what we're doing right now. So the target condition and the step is actually real, because for our goal of understanding why kata is not mainstreaming or how to mainstream kata, understanding what makes people do it in secret, understanding the obstacles, if you will, was something we're working on. And so I asked to do this talk and a 90-minute conversation at 11 o'clock today as a way to connect with other people who are interested in that and in using their sphere of influence to spread kata in the community, in the business, but also other communities. And also we'd like to end up at the end of this conference with a little group or a list or somewhere for people to get together and help each other to do that. So if you're interested in seeing this in greater detail, you can come along later to our 90-minute talk. And I just also had, because we have had, as you can imagine, a lot of conversations about this, so some of the other stuff we've talked about, we might want to take as a target condition against a different obstacle at some future time. People tell us it's hard to explain, so we think there might need to be a sales pitch. Like we can develop a sales pitch that you guys can all use, everyone could use. We know that a lot of people who are in their learning kata especially, they use it in their personal life. So we think there's a place for a personal development curriculum or something. We don't actually have a good cost-benefit analysis that doesn't tie it to lean. And Hal keeps looking for the job description of somebody who knows kata that ever appears in a job description. And I think the shout-out goes to Brandon Brown, right? He's the only one who's ever posted a job that said it would be great if you knew kata. So there you go. And we also are very, very interested in the learning pathway. So if I learned one thing at university is that it's always cool, it makes you look like the cool kid if you say, so what, right? What does that mean? So our so what is we know that we hit up against a pretty well-known aspect of corporate culture, right? That the unseen parts, the parts that are below the surface, that organizational culture is, as Hal calls it, the antibodies. If you look like you're a new virus, they will send out antibodies to shut you down. So we know that. We know that corporate culture is, or societal culture or whatever, that we've hit up against some of those things. And when we say people catted in secret, the reason why Hal thought it was going to happen, of course people are doing it, probably more people, maybe even majority of people, because they're not at KataCon, but the majority of people who try to learn kata maybe first do it on their own or in secret or without any help at all, or because someone told them not to do it, they hide that they do it. And so we know that that's a factor in corporate culture, of course, but we also know that there's lots of ways to get around that. And I don't know if we mentioned this, but my master's thesis is about, it's about culture, how people teach culture and learn culture. So I was like, that's cool, we can do that. And so I thought I would end, and I don't know how much time I have. Do I have 5 minutes? I'm good, okay, great. I'm so paranoid about going over. I thought I would share with you a model that I use as an adult educator, because in adult education, we love resistance, okay? As somebody who deals with trying to get people to learn new stuff all the time who maybe don't have, who have really bad experiences with education, I love, honor, and respect resistance, because when I hit resistance, I know I have reached something real and important, right? So I'm going to share with you a little model that has really helped me, and I know people are, I don't know, oh, I got it, okay, good. I think that sometimes, oh, I should have done it on this slide, damn it, I see I could have kept my notes. Okay, so I know that sometimes you're going to get resistance when you try to move somebody from saying, no, you can't, I don't want you to do that. We have a system, we have a whole department to teach people how to think, so don't go thinking on your own, right? If you try to move somebody straight from a no answer to a yes answer directly, you will get resistance. That's 100% predictable, right? I mean, I predict it. It's the unusual people who get the blinding flash of insight and say, I need to learn this. This is cool. So if you're here, if that happened to you, you're an outlier. But this is the model that I use as an adult educator, and it's part of a much more complicated model, but you don't need to go to graduate school, right? This is like 4 fingers to remember. So if you try to move somebody from no to yes, you're probably going to have to take them through some yeah, but sentences, right? You're going to hear back, yeah, but that's, we're not Toyota. Yeah, but, we already have a storyboard. Yeah, but that's okay for the engineers. It's not going to work in HR. Whatever it is, you're going to hear some yeah, buts, okay? And your job in talking to those people, at least my job, is always to move people from no, and I hear those yeah buts, but if I can get them to a maybe that's okay for production, but have you ever seen anyone do it in maintenance? If I'm getting those kind of answers, I know I'm on my way to a yes. So basically we're trying to get from denial to acceptance by way of resistance and exploration. So I don't know how many of you were in Mark Rosenthal's thing, but I hear he talked about the Navy nuclear submarine captain and the ladder of communication, and how what you hear back from people can help you know the current state of where they're at, and therefore how you could respond. This is a very, very simple version. If you start to hear, yeah, but, you know you're in denial, that's cool, you know in your resistance, then there are things that you would listen and say. At every step, you listen, you ask a deeper question, you listen, and basically the person talks themselves into exploration, and then from there, you listen, you ask a few deeper questions, and if you have people who are in maybe, this is a great time to go visit another company. This is a good time to show them videos. This is a good time to go for lunch with somebody who's done this before, because they're in exploration. But you can't take somebody in denial to go have lunch with somebody who's done it before. They'll just get mad and push back harder. So if you want to know more about this, then I would like to offer you an invitation to come to Beyond Kata in Secret. We would like to hear your story one-on-one and in a non-threatening way. If you have a Kata in Secret story or an implementation story you'd like to share with Hal and I, we'd love to hear from you. And our next step is actually that we are hosting a table discussion at 11 o'clock down there in the bottom. And we brought some stuff to share. I can talk to you more about the simple change model and what the communication of that looks like. But also we're going to look at what responses to those might look like if they were framed by, for example, sales or psychology, education thinking, and other kinds of models that happen. So I'd also like to add a bit of an invitation. So I know it's funny because everyone's been saying this. So we're really grateful for this is the Kata Geek photo from last year, that people did reach out to us and talk to us. And like I said, we talked to about 60 people over time. But I also wanted to mention that there are people here in the room who will help you no matter what, right? And I was thinking of 2 or 3 things to do. One of them is when you fill out your feedback form, I don't know if you noticed, but it's called Email Me. And whatever you write in there actually goes directly to the speaker as an email. So if you want to ask Drew a question or me, if you actually wrote it in there and put your email, I would get that like that, and I could answer you back. And so could anyone else who's been in a session today. So that's one way you can communicate with people. I haven't been out actually much at the breaks because I've been with Tilo in the dojo for a day and a half. But I will be at the break today. But the other thing is, I wanted to say, how many people in this room need a coach? Does anybody in the room need a coach? Put your hand up. Okay, awesome. So how many people in this room are coaches? Great. Coaches, I want you to look around because they need a coach. People, put your hand up again. Okay. So there are several people in this room who I've coached because they needed a coach. There's almost nobody in this room whose coaching is so perfect that they couldn't learn from coaching one more person. And I mentioned yesterday in the dojo that you can if you teach in the same place, if you coach in the same place, you might meet the same kind of people a lot. And it's really great as a coach to get a left field person and coach them. Get somebody who's a real newbie, get somebody who's whatever. So you saw the hands, right? Did you pick somebody? I want you to ask somebody, talk to somebody about being a coach. Because KataCon, we are super friendly. There's nobody here you can't walk up to and say, hi, I understand you're interested in Kata, me too. Okay, so I'm inviting you to do that. So that's it. Let's connect and take a step. If you're interested in mainstreaming Kata or you want to know more about communicating about it or the resistance model, I hope we'll see you at 11 o'clock. Thank you. Is that?